begin with. We are, Mr. Speaker, House is not in order.
House will come to order. Gentlemen, suspend. The House will come to order. Gentleman has the right to be heard.
I tell my friend, we have little doubt on our side of the aisle why we're where we are today.
The House will come to order. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
I'd say, Mr. Speaker, we are trying to do the business of the American people. We do not want to shut the government down. We don't accept the status quo. We don't want to bankrupt this nation. We believe there's a fiscal crisis demanding urgent action, Mr. Speaker, and with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Without objection, 5-minute voting will continue. Pursuant to Clause 8, Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal, on which the yeas and nays were ordered. The question is on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
And we're going to try to take some of your phone calls during this 5-minute vote and your reaction to what you just heard on the House floor with the Majority Leader and the Democratic Whip, Steny Hoyer. Here are the numbers. If you're a Republican, 202-585-3885. Democrats, 202-585-3886. Independents and others, 202-585-3887. Make sure that you mute your television when you call in, with Majority Leader Eric Cantor saying that the House will come in on Friday, and it looks like a full day of legislation. They'll be in at 10 a.m. for general speeches, morning hour, and legislative business at noon Eastern, with the underlying legislation pending, at least, will be the FCC net neutrality bill, but looking forward to some sort of work on appropriations. Let's hear from callers. Go to Chicago first, and Richard is on our independent line. Hi, Richard.
Hey, how you feeling?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be a government shutdown because, first of all, we have failed. Well, the Republicans have failed to be right about a budget, because if anyone wants to remember, the Democrats tried to pass a budget back in December before this new majority had came in, but we were short 2 votes in order for a Democrat pass budget to pass the House and the Senate and to get passed and get signed by the president. So I'm tired of hearing these Republicans saying it's our fault, it wasn't no budget.
And just to let you know what's ahead, an hour of debate on another short-term spending measure for fiscal year 2011, which would fund the federal government, cut $12 billion, would fund it through next Friday anyway, and fully fund the Defense Department for the remainder of the spending year, of the fiscal year, rather. On our Republican line, John from Longview, Texas.
Yes, there's going to be a government shutdown, and the reason is the Democrats did not do their job last year. They had overwhelming majorities, and they didn't pass a budget because they cared more about votes for an election.
Next we go to Honolulu. Up early is Velma on our Democrats line.
Hi, yeah, you know what? I was just watching this. I'm not really in politics. I just really got into this whole thing just recently, and it's really disappointing for me to see that the Republicans are saying that they're here fighting and working for the American people. I'm an American, and I can definitely tell you that if this government gets shut down, my family and my neighbors, we're going to be in a world of hurt because we actually depend on the government. We've worked for the government. We depend on the government. This is just ridiculous. I don't understand how the Republicans are being. It feels like they just want it their way. It's their way or their highway. That's just wrong.
More debate ahead on the House floor. We're also going to hear more from Harry Reid, also likely more from John Boehner, as both of them will be heading to the White House this afternoon to meet with President Obama. Jim's in New Jersey, and on our independent line, what do you think of what you're hearing, Jim?
You know, I think it's like a bunch of little schoolboys and schoolgirls fighting in a schoolyard. This is totally insane. I've been unemployed for over a year. I don't see any jobs. I got to tell you, I go for an interview and there's 15 people in a waiting hall.
What did you do before you were let go?
I've been in the transportation business for the last 25 years. Now, could it be because I've been out of work for a year? Could it be that maybe my credit score has been hurt because I've been out of work for a year? Or could it be my age? And there's three big problems. And, you know, them fighting back and forth about shutting it down, they're never going to shut it down. They're going to extend it a week, extend it another 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. They're wasting our time and our money. That's what I believe.
Republican line next up. Jeff in Miami, Ohio, or is it Miamisburg?
It's Miamisburg.
Okay, go Miamisburg. Go ahead.
Yes, I think it's interesting that the Democrats haven't passed a bill last year, and the first time since 1974. While I don't agree with a government shutdown, I do believe that the Republicans have an offer on the table for extending the government for another week with $12 billion in cuts. Now, I heard Minority Leader Steny Hoyer talk about how we got in a situation in the first place where if they took care of their jobs last year, we wouldn't be in a position that we are in now. And I think it's good that Republicans are taking a stand, and I applaud Mr. Boehner, and I also applaud Mr. Cantor for finally standing up for the American people on this budget issue.
Minutes ago on the House floor, Eric Cantor saying the House will be in on Friday, coming in at 10 o'clock for speeches, legislative business at noon, and if they need to, they will continue through the weekend. As he mentioned on the House floor, just a few votes left in this approval of the journal vote, and we continue with calls, a couple of them anyway. This is Willie in San Francisco on our Democrats line.
Yes, good morning. Basically, I blame both parties. They are acting like little children, and they are not representing the American people. If you're going to do a budget, you should take every line item and cut that line item and stop being ideological and acting like children. They're not representing us. They're representing themselves in their selfish way. And there's a lot of people out there that don't have jobs, they don't have food, and they're not looking at us. They're looking at themselves. Thank you very much. Most of the discussion today will be about spending for the fiscal year 2011, but also the House is likely to vote on a bill they debated yesterday blocking EP regulation of greenhouse gases. You're watching live House coverage on C-SPAN. It looks like the vote is about to wrap up.
Voted. Okay. On this vote, the yeas are 307, the nays are 113, with 2 voting present. The journal stands approved. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition?
May we have order, Madam Chairman?
The House will be in order. Please take your conversations off the floor. Please take your conversations off the floor. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to the rule just passed, I call up the bill H.R. 1363, making appropriations for the Department of Defense for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2011, and for other purposes, and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 1363, a bill making appropriations for the Department of Defense for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2011, and for other purposes.
Pursuant to House Resolution 206, the bill is considered read. The gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Rogers, and the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Dix, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 1363, and that I may include tabular material on the same.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to support H.R. 1363, the Department of Defense, and further additional Continuing Appropriations Act of 2012.
Let's get order.
We'll suspend.
I ask everyone in the chamber to take their conversations off the floor. I think our members would like to proceed, but we cannot proceed as long as you're staying on the floor and talking. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I ask my colleagues, Madam Speaker, to support this bill so that we can avoid a government shutdown and provide the necessary time to finally complete negotiations on a final funding agreement for the rest of the 2011 fiscal year. This bill funds government operations for 1 week while reducing spending by $12 billion. These cuts include funding rescissions, reductions, and program terminations from nearly all areas of the government. Virtually all of these cuts were also included in H.R. 1. Many were included in the President's budget requests, the Senate's alternative to H.R. 1, or the recent OMB CR proposal. Most importantly, Madam Speaker, this bill supports our troops and our national security by providing funding for our national defense for the remainder of this fiscal year. Our troops and their families deserve to have the financial security we promised them while we continue to work towards a final budget agreement. After months of uncertainty, it's high time we provide for our national security in a responsible way. This means common sense funding that ensures the safety of our war fighters and the success of our missions abroad. However, while this legislation points us in the right direction on security and spending cuts, what we all want right now is to wrap up these negotiations, complete the process for 2011, and move our many other important legislative items onto the table. As I've said many times before, Madam Speaker, short-term measures like this are not the preferable way to fund the government. So while no one wants to fund the government in 1 or 2 week bursts, this short-term CR is what we must do to prevent a government shutdown and allow time to pass a smart and thoughtful bill for the rest of the year. Mr. Speaker, coming into this Congress, the Democrats left us with a financial mess, soaring deficits, unchecked spending, and no budget, not a single appropriations bill for 2011. And now that we're 6 months into the fiscal year, the Senate Democrats have yet to produce any plan to help clean up this mess. Despite all the roadblocks we faced throughout this process, we must continue down the path to fiscal solvency. And this CR both affords us the time required to complete negotiations, as well as makes the spending cuts needed to continue to help balance our budgets. We are committed to making real spending cuts like these to reduce our deficits both now and in the future. We are determined to complete this work where Democrats failed to do so. While answering our constituents' calls to reduce excessive government spending, this bill provides time to negotiate in an honest way to do what is not only right for our constituents, our nation, and our financial future. Let's pass this bill and finally get this leftover work from last year behind us once and for all. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Kentucky reserves. The gentleman from Washington, Mr. Dix, is recognized.
I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished former whip, Mr. Clyburn, who is now the Assistant Majority Leader.
The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Clyburn, is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank my friend for yielding me the time. Madam Speaker, my Republican friends bring to the floor today a transparent political ploy that's an insult to our men and women in uniform and their families. It says that the Republican majority is willing to put up funding to arm and equip our troops fighting overseas for the remainder of the year. But they won't find a way to fund the rest of the federal programs that assist their spouses, children, and parents who are making significant sacrifices keeping the home front together, while their loved ones give all they have to keep all of us safe and free. No, they're happy to submit them, their families, to whims of a budget debate that I am concerned is rapidly moving toward a shutdown that many of their supporters are clamoring for and seem pleased to have happen. This is no peace of mind for a soldier fighting in the field to defend our freedoms and interests if his or her spouse or parents are being furloughed at home or their children being denied essential services. Is this bill going anywhere in the Senate? I don't think so, and certainly hope not. This kind of insensitivity should never be codified. Madam Speaker, the VA's backlog is extensive and growing. Let's stop wasting time and raising anxieties. Let's get back to the negotiating table so we can avoid a government shutdown and the damage it will do to military families and working men and women.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I would point out, Madam Speaker, that this bill would prevent a shutdown. This keeps the government operating. That's one aspect of it. I yield 3 minutes to the very distinguished chairman of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee and former chairman of the full committee, Mr. Young of Florida.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Make no mistake about it, this is a national defense appropriations bill. This bill is based on one that was written under Chairman Dix last year and should have been brought to this floor and passed into law last year. But for some reason, this one, along with every other appropriations bill, didn't see the light of day. This may not be the most perfect defense bill that we've ever produced here, but it is a good bill, and it will keep the Defense Department functioning. And here's the problem, that for those of us that work every day of our lives in national defense, we see what's happening. Under a continuing resolution, the Defense Department is getting terribly close, dangerously close to affecting readiness, training, troops and their families. This is not something that we can allow to continue. Put away the politics. Understand the importance of taking care of our soldiers and our sailors and our airmen and our Marines and their families. Don't make them go without a paycheck, because most of them live from paycheck to paycheck. And that's just not right, but that's the way it is. Let's pass this bill. Put the politics aside. Let us get the Department of Defense away from a continuing resolution that is having a very, very negative effect on our readiness and on our training. And I want to compliment Chairman Rogers for the good job that he has done to get us to this point today. Well, let's pass this bill, and let's get on with the business of the country, and especially defending our country and defending those who defend our country. I yield back.
The gentleman from Kentucky reserves. The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished, what do you want? 4 minutes to the distinguished Democratic whip, Mr. Hoyer, my good friend from Maryland.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 4 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. How I missed my magic minute. I want to say to the chairman of the Appropriations Committee how often he and I have said, you know, when we have these impasses, we need a clean CR. This CR is unclean. This CR will not get us to where you say you want to get, Mr. Chairman, and that's not shutting down the government. Because you know, and I know, the President will not sign this bill. Why? Because you put in poison pills that you know are unacceptable to him. Why? So you can get the votes on your side of the aisle to vote for your bill to keep the government open. Why is that difficult? Because so many of your folks, unless they get 100%, are prepared to shut down the government. You and I both know that, Mr. Chairman. I have great respect for you. Very frankly, I think you and I could go in a room and solve this in the next 30 seconds. But you and I are not in that room. It is time, as the Speaker has said, to be adults. Why is this a viable piece of legislation on the floor? Because you think you can hold the government ransom for an additional $12 billion. I said that I would not support, after supporting the first two, which I thought were reasonable to try to give us an opportunity to solve the differences that exist between us, that I would not vote for a third one, and I'm not going to vote for this one. It won't matter because it's dead anyway, and you all know it's dead. But you're banking on the fact that you know we don't want to shut down government. What's the proof in the pudding? We did not shut it down when we had disagreements with George Bush. Because we believed that reasonable people elected by a diverse community in America who had different opinions were expected by our public to come together, reason together, and act productively together. Now, very frankly, I don't take a back seat to anybody on this floor in my support of defense, or the men and women in uniform, and Mr. Young knows that, my dear friend. Not a back seat to anyone. And yes, if we passed a unanimous consent request to fund at present levels, defense would continue. Should we have passed the defense bill last year? I think we should have. I'm sorry we didn't. I urge that we do it. But the Senate, as you might recall, would not allow any bills to come to the floor. Any bills. That is, the Republicans in the United States Senate would not allow that to happen. So now we are faced with not a let's reason together bill, but an additional $12 billion in cuts. Which means that week by week by week, you will think you will get to what you want. Not a compromise, not an agreement, but what you want. And you'll do it $5 billion a week, $2 billion a week. This one is $12 billion a week. And you have no expectation that that will pass or be signed by the President. But you do it to pretend you want to keep government in operations. Newt Gingrich has said, don't worry about shutting down the government, as he shut it down in 1995 and over Christmas for 3 weeks in 95 and 96. Ladies and gentlemen, on my side of the aisle, we ought to reject this specious political act which pretends that we want to keep the government open. And we ought to do
time has
30
expired.
additional seconds. 30 additional seconds.
I yield 30 additional seconds.
We ought to do, Mr. Chairman, what you and I have done in the past as members of the Appropriations Committee. Say we haven't reached agreement. We'll do a clean CR at present levels while we continue to negotiate on behalf of the American people to do what we all want to do. We've got to bring this deficit down. We can point fingers at one another as to
we had a clean CR, the President would sign it into law.
Absolutely. And that would pass the Senate.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I urge my colleagues to reject this CR and adopt a clean CR that will keep the government in operations and allow us to come together and reason together.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Pass a reasonable piece of legislation. I yield back the balance of my time.
CR as it relates to defense.
The chair needs to remind the members that remarks in debate must be addressed to the chair and not to other members in the second person. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Madam Speaker, insofar as the military is concerned, this is not a CR. This funds the Department for the balance of the year. The rest of the bill, of course, is the CR. I yield 3 minutes to the very hard-working chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, gentleman from California, Mr. McCown.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding. And I rise in strong support of the bill before us that will fund our troops through the end of the fiscal year, cut an additional $12 billion in federal spending, and prevent a government shutdown. Failure to pass this resolution would intentionally harm those who have made great sacrifices in defense of our ideals and our values. We simply cannot have our fighting forces on the front lines in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya, wondering if their families at home will be provided for. It would be a grave injustice and a gross affront to the civil-military relationship. Their pay cannot, should not be disrupted, not for a week, not for a few days, not for a second. Our men and women in uniform deserve better. I don't even want to contemplate a government shutdown. But if it should happen, people need to know that the pay to our military would be suspended. This means we would have our troops on the front lines risking their lives with their families at home with bills to pay and mouths to feed, and they wouldn't get their paycheck. As Secretary Gates has said, many of our youngest sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines live from paycheck to paycheck. While wives and husbands are off fighting to keep this nation safe, we cannot have them left wondering what's happening to their families. I think that we're mature enough to fix this problem. But if we don't, failing to properly resource the Defense Department during the difficult trials of war could arrest the momentum that's been achieved through blood, sweat, and tears of our troops. The military is already overstretched, over-deployed, and overworked. Should this resolution fail, they'll also be underpaid. We have too much riding on these young men and women to sell them short. Let's work together to figure out this budget, but let's get this military pay issue off the table first. I encourage all members to send a clear message to our military men and women by supporting this critical troop funding appropriations bill. This Congress believes in you. We support you. We honor your dedication. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Kentucky continues to reserve. The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
I yield 3 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Moran, former chairman of Interior, now the ranking Democratic member of the Interior and Environment Subcommittee.
The gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the very distinguished former chair of the Appropriations Committee and now ranking member of the committee as well as Defense. Madam Speaker, none of us want any of our soldiers to go unpaid for 1 day or 1 moment. Obviously, they should not. But there are also representatives of virtually every agency in the government that are working for our goals and objectives throughout the world in combat situations, many of them in hardship situations. And much of the essential work of the government, our people in the military would be the first to say, is performed by people who don't have to be in uniform. None of them should go without pay. This government represents the most important nation in the world, and we are responsible for funding it. We represent the people, and they work for the people. The problem with this bill is that the decision to bring it up now is tantamount to shutting down that government. What we should be doing is exactly what Mr. Hoyer and Mr. Dix have suggested, bringing up a clean, continuing resolution, letting us get through the weekend, come up with a long-term resolution for the rest of the fiscal year, and then fight out these ideological battles in the fiscal year 2012 appropriations bills. This is no way to run a government, Madam Speaker. But we do have some precedent. The last time the Republican Party took over the Congress, back in 1995, and some of my colleagues will recall, we also shut down the government. During the Christmas period, 27 days. And we know what happened then. 800,000 federal government workers were furloughed. It cost the taxpayers more than $1.4 billion. Let me just mention some of the things that happened then and will happen again. The Minerals Management Service had to shut down many of the rigs that produce oil that powers this economy. It estimated that the companies who own those rigs had to pay at least $525,000, couldn't get any oil. They were shut in. And in fact, we had 200,000 U.S. applications for passports which went unprocessed. 30,000 applications by foreigners for visas, much of it business that had to be done in this country, was closed down. U.S. tourist industries and airlines sustained millions of dollars in losses. That's what will happen again. The Center for Disease Control ceased disease surveillance. Can I have another 30 seconds and I'll finish this?
The gentleman's recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Toxic waste cleanup was stopped at 609 sites. 2,400 Superfund workers were sent home. 368 National Park Service sites were closed down. 7 million visitors weren't able to visit the parks. There were more than 2 million visitors who couldn't go to national museums and monuments. The Smithsonian will be shut down. Federal contractors were furloughed. Throughout this country, not just in the federal government, this economy took a deep hit. Jobs were lost. Money was lost. People couldn't pay their mortgages and their car payments. Don't let it happen again, Madam Speaker. Let's pass a clean CR.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the member of our committee from Texas, Mr. Carter. 2 minutes.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This past week or so ago, we had the NCOs of all the services come in to appear before the Milcon Committee, and the question was asked, I believe, by my friend on the other side, that what is the #1 concern of the United States military that are fighting our wars today, our wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Libya? What is their #1 concern? Every top NCO of every service said losing their paycheck and not being able to care for their families back home. Now, the Democrats are holding our poor troops hostage so that they can have this agenda that is going to result in shutting down the government. Let's make this clear. What we're offering today is to continue the government in action for the next week, but to make sure that our troops know that their pay is going to be solid, because we're going to fund the Defense Department for the next 5 months. This is intolerable. We've offered in House Resolution 1 to fund the entire government and to fund our troops. The Democrats rejected. We offered again today to fund our troops and make sure that they're going to get paid and make sure the contracts are met and essential training services are there. They refuse it. We asked them, we have a backup bill, 1297, which would just guarantee the troops get paid. They've refused it. Now the Commander-in-Chief of the military in this country has announced that he is going to veto a bill that would see to it that our soldiers get paid. What is the #1 worry of men and women in combat today? Will my folks back home have a paycheck? Now, that's not me saying that. That's the highest NCOs in the Army.
The gentleman's time has expired.
We need to respect that, and we need to pass this. Thank you.
The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
I yield 3 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Price, who is the ranking member on the Homeland Security Subcommittee.
The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this continuing resolution. All of us know we're having this debate at a difficult and challenging and tense time. We're facing an entirely unnecessary governmental shutdown, a shutdown that's already been disruptive to critical governmental functions and to our communities and may become radically more so. But we all know, everyone in this chamber knows, this could have been avoided. This is a politically generated crisis. In December, this House faced the possibility of passing an omnibus appropriations bill, 12 subcommittee bills assembled with bipartisan cooperation, with substantial savings relative to the President's budget request, and Republicans in the Senate refused even to consider that omnibus bill. So failing that, we said, what about a year-long continuing resolution? Again, Republicans in the Senate said they would filibuster such a bill. So here we are. What our friends on the other side of the aisle opted for instead was a potential March shutdown that they thought they could use to leverage the Tea Party agenda. Now, I and many others on this side of the aisle have been willing in recent weeks to vote for 2 short-term continuing resolutions to give the process more time. We accepted additional cuts that avoided real damage to the recovering economy or to critical investments. But this resolution before us today, my colleagues, breaks with that pattern. It attempts to hold the House and the country hostage to an extreme ideological position to which the Republican conference has unfortunately caved in. This resolution proposes $12 billion in unacceptable cuts, cuts that would damage this fragile recovery and cuts that would damage critical national investments. It would take $200 billion from the Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children. It takes hundreds of millions from federal law enforcement. It would take millions from the Department of Energy's environmental cleanup programs. It would, in the Homeland Security area, with which I'm most familiar because of the subcommittee I chaired and on which I now serve as ranking member, it would reduce FEMA's state and local grants by 20% below 2010 levels. And both the state Homeland Security grants and the urban area security grants would go to historically low levels. The continuing resolution would decimate the Land and Water Conservation Fund. It would radically cut the Clean Water and Drinking Water revolving funds. It cuts Centers for Excellence for veteran students. It cuts from the Centers for Disease Control critical funds. It would cut $1.5 billion from a critical national investment, high-speed rail. And it would cut the public housing operating funds. 20 additional seconds.
The gentleman has an additional 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, these cuts are serious business. They have the potential to damage this fragile recovery and to compromise critical national investments. We cannot be held hostage. This country, this Congress cannot be held hostage. This crisis has been artificially created for political purposes, but that doesn't mean we need to go along with it. We can pass a clean continuing resolution and continue the discussions, but we cannot do this kind of damage to our economy. And I yield back.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the chairman on our committee of the Subcommittee for Transportation and HUD. Gentleman from Iowa, Mr. Latham, 2 minutes.
The gentleman from Iowa is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman from Kentucky. The idea that this is somehow artificially created is unbelievable. Is there any memory over on the other side here about what happened last year for the first time since the Budget Act of 1974? That you didn't even attempt to pass a budget last year? You initiated what the majority on your side, both in the House and the Senate and the presidency, did not pass one bill into law. That's why we're here today. You know that's not artificial. And I'm glad they got the talking points down from Senator Schumer about being extreme. I tell you what's extreme is to continue to spend this country into oblivion. You're going to have our kids and grandchildren working for the Chinese if you continue this. And that's why, Madam Speaker, today I rise in support of H.R. 1363, the troop funding bill. It's unfortunate that we have to be here in this way today, but we have no choice because of the inaction of the other side from last year. This bill will provide much-needed certainty for our troops in the field and would keep the government open for another week. It also makes $12 billion in cuts in other programs, most of which were proposed by the President and by the Democrats. The cuts that we're talking about that are so supposedly draconian out of a $3.6 trillion budget, we can't cut $12 billion apparently. Now, many in the Senate would like to see the Department of Defense budget used as an offset to continue the spending binge we're on here in Washington. But we cannot allow our troops to be used as a bargaining chips in negotiation. It's time to take the Department of Defense off the table and fund our troops for the rest of this year. Our brave men and women in the field engaged in 3 different wars. One just started again by this President around the globe, and they deserve to know that they have the full support of this Congress.
Gentleman's time has expired.
The gentleman, an additional 30 seconds.
The gentleman's recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
We owe it to those sacrificing for us both home and abroad to ensure that there is not an interruption of their pay. This measure continues to show the House Republicans' commitment to our men and women in uniform, and while protecting the cause of freedom around the world, as well as our commitment to fiscal sanity and cutting spending while keeping the government open. If this is rejected by the House and Senate Democrats and the White House, and it's amazing, the Commander-in-Chief of the military is going to veto a bill that will fund his troops.
The gentleman's time has expired.
I've never heard anything more outrageous, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Yes, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Israel, who is a former member of the Appropriations Committee, doing great things in his new job. 2 minutes.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank my friend. I thank the gentleman. Mr. Speaker, you know, Republicans came to Washington promising to change the way Washington works, and what do they give us? This political stunt of a resolution. They came to the majority in 1994 and shut down the government. They came back to the majority in 2010, and they want to shut down the government, and they want to blame Democrats for doing that. The American people see right through this. They know that you demanded $73 billion in cuts, and we agreed to $73 billion in cuts. Now you're saying you want more. They know that not only do you want more, but you want to add restrictions on a woman's right to choose. They keep moving the goalposts further and further to the far, 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 far right. And it is enough. Now, I keep hearing my friends on the other side of the aisle talk about their concern about debt and deficits, and we agree. Let me remind my friends on the other side of the aisle that several weeks ago we offered an amendment that would have reduced spending by asking the top 5 richest oil companies in America just to forego this year's portion of their tax subsidy. And they said no. Let me remind my friends that several weeks ago we offered to reduce spending by eliminating funding for the bridge to nowhere. And they said no. Keep spending on the top 5 richest, most profitable oil companies. Keep spending on the bridge to nowhere, but privatize Medicare for senior citizens. Make them tighten their belts. Make them sacrifice. But when it comes to our friends in the special interest, spend, spend, spend. We see right through it. The American people see right through it. It's time to do what we offered to do, which is to meet you where you wanted to meet us until you move those goalposts. Enough, Madam Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair will remind the members that remarks in debate must be addressed to the chair and not to other members in the second person. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Madam Speaker, may I inquire of the time remaining on both sides?
The gentleman from Kentucky has 16 and a half, and the gentleman from Washington has 14 and a half minutes remaining.
Madam Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to one of my hard-working subcommittee chairmen on appropriations, the chairman of the Interior Subcommittee, gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Simpson.
The gentleman from Idaho is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. You know, there's a way to avoid the consequences of a government shutdown that the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Moran, spoke about just a few minutes ago, and that is to pass this CR, put it on the President's desk so that he will sign it, and I believe he will sign it. The gentleman from North Carolina said, this could have been avoided. He's absolutely right. This could have been avoided. It could have been avoided by when the Democrats controlled the House and the Senate and the presidency last year, actually passing a budget or passing an appropriation bill on the floor of the House. Guess what? That never happened. You left us with this mess, and now you complain about the way we're trying to clean it up. The gentleman also said this is an ideological position on which the Republicans will not yield. He's right. And that ideological position is this country is in a fiscal crisis and we are going to get our house back in order. If that's the position that we're being criticized for, I welcome that criticism. Mr. Speaker, nobody wants this government to be shut down. And frankly, there's absolutely no reason to close down the government. The smart thing to do would be to pass this one-week CR that saves the taxpayers $12 billion and addresses the dual goals of addressing the fiscal crisis that we're in and averts a government shutdown. And it also funds our troops for the rest of this year. It enables our congressional leaders in the White House to dot the I's and cross the T's on the final spending bill for 2011. That would be the smart thing to do. Many of the spending reductions contained in this CR are spending reductions that the President has submitted to Congress in either his FY11 or FY12 budget requests. Almost $1.3 billion of the spending reductions come from my own subcommittee, the Interior and Environment Subcommittee, and these are spending reductions that will probably be in any final agreement that is made between Republicans and Democrats. So the $12 billion is not extreme. It will be in the final agreement, whatever that agreement is. There is absolutely no reason why the Senate cannot pass this bill and send it to the White House. I believe if you put it on the President's desk, he will fund it, he will sign it, so that our troops are funded. I yield back.
I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from the District of Columbia.
The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you. I apologize. I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from the District of Columbia, Ms. Norton, who can explain why part of this CR is very ideologically driven and extreme.
The gentlewoman from Washington is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for his efforts, and I'm here to say to my good friends on the other side, it's one thing to beat up on the District of Columbia, it's another thing to drop a bomb on a city, and that's what this CR does. It takes the root of authoritarian governments and dictatorships by dictating to a local government how it may spend its local funds, and it may force the District of Columbia government to shut down, although our government had a balanced budget, has had it since last spring, has been passed by the committees in this House, but because the Congress can't figure out how to pass its own budget, it now threatens to close down the local budget of the District of Columbia, which doesn't have a dime in this budget, only local funds. My amendment could have avoided all this by allowing local funds to continue to be spent by the District of Columbia. The other side is engaged in many attacks on the city's right to self-government, from stripping my vote in the Committee of the Whole, approved by 2 federal courts, to 3 riders in their H.R. 1. But the ultimate attack on a local self-government is federal usurpation, a virtual taking of our local funds by not allowing the city to use its own money to keep its own local government running. Worse, there's an attempt to use the District of Columbia as a bargaining chip in these negotiations. There have been no riders in prior congressional resolutions. Shamefully, the District of Columbia here is paired with a rider that no prisoners can be brought into the United States, with another that says D.C.'s local funds shall be captured by keeping the city. May I have 30 seconds?
Additional seconds.
The gentlewoman's recognized for 30 seconds.
By keeping the city from spending its own local funds on abortion, how much more contempt can you show for the citizens who live in the nation's capital? If the Republicans are going to require members to cite the Constitution in introducing legislation, I ask them to stop tearing up the Constitution and throwing it in the faces of the American citizens who live in the nation's capital. And I yield back.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized. Excuse me.
Yes.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington arise?
I think the gentleman from Kentucky wants me to do another speaker, and I recognize the gentleman from Vermont, Mr. Welch, for 2 additional minutes. Peter Welch.
The gentleman from Vermont is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Dix. There's something we have to acknowledge, whatever side of the issue we're going to vote on. We are playing with fire. A government shutdown is going to have 2 consequences. One, the obvious, and that is that folks who depend on governmental services are going to be enormously inconvenienced. Contractors who are owed money from the federal government won't be paid. Our citizens are going to be adversely hurt, and folks who work honestly and hard every day for the federal government are going to be out of a job. That's significant. But what's really significant in the long term is that this is sending a signal to the world, not just America, that the American political process is fundamentally broken. And if we're unable to reach an agreement on a 1-week continuing resolution to keep government going, what are the prospects for us when we face the challenge of a budget next year? What are the prospects for us when we face the challenge that looms ahead of us in May of raising the debt ceiling so that America can honor the obligation that it has to pay its bills? When the world begins to lose confidence that America's political process can function, it is going to have a very dramatic and negative impact on the economy. Interest rates are going to go up because the cost of borrowing will go up because the anxiety about whether America meets its obligations will increase. We are playing with fire here. And the biggest problem I have with the proposals that have been made fiscally on the other side, in my view, is that they're designed to fail. It's not that there isn't a legitimate concern about spending and getting our fiscal house in order. You're right about that. We share that. But if we're going to get from here to there, you cannot attack 100% of the problem on 12% of the budget. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself 30 seconds.
The gentleman's recognized.
Chairman Simpson a moment ago referred and reminded us that we're in this mess that we're in because the other side, when they controlled the House last year, failed to pass a single appropriations bill and left the mess in our hands when we took over in January. That reminds me a little bit, and now that they're complaining about the way we're trying to clean up their mess, it reminds me a bit of Abraham Lincoln back in Illinois when he was practicing law. Spoke of a man who was accused of killing his parents, and in court made a plea that
the gentleman's time has expired.
Made a plea that he was an orphan. Thank you. I yield 2 minutes, Madam Speaker. to the chairman, my chairman on Financial Services Subcommittee on our full committee, the gentlelady from Missouri, Ms. Emerson.
Thank you, Mr.
The
Chairman.
gentlewoman from Missouri is recognized for 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of this resolution and really want to express, I believe, the opinion of all of us that we do not want the federal government to shut down, because doing so means abrogating our responsibility to serve the American people from both the legislative and executive branches. We've all talked about how a shutdown also means our men and women in uniform will face the uncertainty of serving without pay. Your phones must be ringing like mine are, because we are hearing from so many military families whom we represent. They're facing uncertainty on top of uncertainty, posted overseas or with a family member away on active duty in harm's way. They're just trying to keep their households intact. And the President would veto such a piece of legislation? And so this measure achieves two important goals. It assures our military operations and the pay of our military members are uninterrupted, and it provides us another week to continue negotiations. No one in this Congress should mistake this for easy work, because it isn't. We're attempting to reduce discretionary spending from historic heights, control the growth and the scope of government, and give our children a future where the necessary functions we enjoy today exist for them tomorrow. We're also attempting to endow them with a future in which they can enjoy low taxes, keep more of what they earn, and invest in new ideas and opportunities, those things that have made our nation great. The negotiators and staff members on both sides of this effort are working late hours, weekends, and I'm convinced we all want to get this right, but it would be more helpful if we could agree to work and find consensus instead of ripping apart a one-week bill that funds our troops. I'm not the only one to notice that we began the budget process for 2012 this week at the very moment when we're trying to resolve our responsibilities for 2011.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Gentleman requests an extra 30 seconds.
The gentlelady is yielding another 30 seconds.
The gentlewoman's recognized for 30 seconds.
I hope we can achieve that first goal this week so we can move on to the next order of business, y'all, serving the people we represent through the budget process and making the difficult decisions to curtail spending when we can't afford. We shouldn't borrow, and we sure don't want our children and grandchildren to pay the bill when it comes due. And I yield back.
His time has expired. The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Yes, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Capter, who is the most senior woman in the House of Representatives and on the Appropriations Committee.
The gentlewoman from Ohio is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank our distinguished ranking member, Mr. Dix, for yielding me this time. Madam Speaker, in our tender economy, where job creation should be our top priority, this flawed legislation moves us backwards. It gives no confidence to the markets that anyone here in the majority knows what they are doing. This bill is partial, it is short-term, and it is a selective bill that leaves the vast majority of budget choices off the table. It is irresponsible. It selects only some of our valiant fighting forces, some would say uses them, and extends paychecks for some through the end of September. But it leaves out the majority of Americans who expect good government out of this Congress to assure economic growth and a continued recovery. The American people are sick and tired of political antics. Let me point out, this bill is so flawed, it leaves out the veterans who come home and can't get work and are lined up with their families at food banks across this country, leaves out decisions regarding food supplies to those pantries so essential to holding life together for our veterans and for millions of other Americans. And what about those vets lined up to exercise their GI benefits at local community colleges? This resolution turns its back on those veterans' educational funding at community colleges. And what about those vets with disabilities who are lined up across our country to get adjudication? This resolution turns its back on them and those adjudication judges that also get paychecks from the government of the United States to do their job. Let me urge the majority to do what the American people sent us here to do, and that is to govern for all, not leave anyone out, not leave our veterans out, not leave the vast majority of Americans out. I ask my colleagues to defeat this flawed resolution. I yield back.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I yield 1 minute to a member of our committee, and a good one. The gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Dent, 1 minute.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Passing this measure